Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. My name is John, and I'm here to review a brand new movie. And that movie is Hunting Season.
I found something.
Okay, we got you.
What happened?
You got shot through the back. You think you can tell me what happened?
They took us. My best friend. They shot her.
Animals. I'm looking for somebody. No.
This movie was directed by R.J. Collins. It stars Mel Gibson, Sophia Hublitz, and Shelley Henning. Basic premise. When a reclusive survivalist and his daughter rescues a mysterious wounded woman from a river, they become entangled in a deadly web of violence and revenge, forcing them to confront a brutal criminal to survive. Okay, so this is another one that I'm a little late to the party on, but I do remember seeing previews for this one at the end of last year and getting super excited about it. Now, I'm a big fan of Mel Gibson. I love all of his movies, especially the Lethal Weapon franchise, and then another one of my favorites of his is M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. So when I saw that he was going to be what seemed to be like maybe a home invasion movie meets some sort of mass killer movie, I thought, is this going to be an action movie, a mystery thriller? Will there be enough horror or horror-adjacent content for me to review it on my channel? And I thought, you know what? I saw some masked men and blood and people getting killed, so I'd say so. It's enough. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly on Hunting Season, because this is another one that's a wild premise and a fun ride. So this movie is a blend of some movies. And when I think of what movies blend into this one, I think of Die Hard. I also think of The Strangers, and more of the original Strangers, not the most recent Insane trilogy. And Blow. And with a blend like that, we're in for some cool twists and turns and exciting action. So in the positive, I'm definitely going to put Mel Gibson. He definitely puts up a decent performance in this one. He really evokes some really great scenes and shows how much he's connected and loves his daughter in this movie. His name is Bo, and his daughter's name is Tag. And they really become an interesting... They seem bizarre at first because they're like country bumpkins, but kind of like, you know, their house is from up to bottom with guns. They're deep in the woods, and you think, oh my God, who are these people?
Oh my God, who are these people? I don't think so.
But they really were fun and endearing. And when they find January was wounded and shot, almost left for dead, they bring her to her house to take care of her, but they come to find out that she's connected to this giant conspiracy plot of drug dealing cartel home invaders that are going to be giant menaces in this movie.
Somebody shot her, left for dead. What do you figure they'll do if they find out she's alive?
The girl, she got seen today.
Take care of it. This brotherhood, who are they?
These people. God dang animals.
I'll also put in the positives newcomer Sophia Hublitz, who plays Mel Gibson's daughter, Tag. And she brought a really cool, young, hip vibe to this story. She's kind of a loner girl. She's missing her mom, who was dead from when she was very young. And she's living with her dad, who's kind of quirky, kind of crazy, and, you know, definitely overprotective.
Hey, Mom! No!
Dad?
Ugh, you're about to swim into open water.
No, I wasn't.
It's just a good thing I was here. If I hadn't
no,
shown up, I don't
sorry,
know.
He wasn't gonna go. Yeah, he was too afraid. No, I wasn't.
This does not concern you, kids. And you're lucky I don't tell your parents you were out there. You know you can't swim well.
I can swim fine, Dad, okay?
No, it's not okay.
Then enters Shelley Henning, who plays January. And I thought, what a weird name for a character. And at first, when she first said it, I thought she was lying because she wanted to cover up her real identity. But no, that's her real name, January. So much for April, May, and June. So January was another one that was a decent character. I wasn't sure if she was going to be good or bad, because sometimes it seemed like she was on the up, and other times it seems like she had things to hide. But she was found on the side of the river by Tag, and Tag and Bo get her into the house to try and bring her back to get her healed up. Now, I first thought to myself, well, why aren't they calling the police? You know, and she requests no hospital and no police, no nothing. So they're going to take care of her and bring her, nature her back to health. But before long, there are strange men that are looking for January, and Bo realizes that there's more to this than what he first thought.
The world is full of ugly people doing ugly things, kid. It's just the nature of the beast.
I found something.
Okay, we got you.
What happened?
You got shot through the back.
And that's when I started getting the Die Hard vibe. So, you know, as a child of the 80s, I grew up with Mel Gibson and Bruce Willis being those action heroes that, you know, you always wanted to look up to and see in the movies as, you know, shoot 'em up officers. Well, here's Mel Gibson trying to do a Die Hard role, and I thought, how is this going to work? Because that Die Hard was Bruce Willis's thing, and Mel Gibson was always the lethal weapon. But because we have an entire gang of criminals that are trying to get to January, Mel Gibson is going to take that Die Hard role and start taking one out one at a time in real gruesome ways.
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
And The Criminals is what was giving me the Blow meets The Strangers vibe, because they do a lot of home invading. So like when they first get January, they home invade her. There's a scene where they home invade Bo and Tag's house. And they were masked, and many times they were masked. They weren't always masked, but sometimes they were masked.
Want to do?
You can't get away from me.
But they also were a part of a giant drug cartel. So this wasn't like 3 or 4 criminals. This was like a whole cartel of villains. And Bo and Tag definitely have this like Marlin and Nemo relationship where Bo is extremely overprotective, doesn't want Tag to do as much as she probably can. And there's this one scene where Tag freezes up, where she's afraid that she can't do it. But then Tag ends up showing that she can. And she literally tags along and ends up helping Bo defeat the majority of these villains in this movie.
Wouldn't be anywhere near here. Okay, I was right. You know what? We'll start school in a year or 2.
No, Dad. Just because you're scared of the ocean.
Clearly you're not ready, and you're not coming back until you are. You think you can do these things, but you just can't, Nemo.
I hate you.
So in the mix, I will definitely say that this movie overall, though it seems to have a fairly big premise with, you know, Die Hard and Blow mixing in there, it still felt like a smaller scale, lower budget film. And not just because, you know, most of the scenes are at the house in the woods, but also just because the overall performances, especially of the villains and the other people in this movie other than the 3 main stars, seem very generic and basic. And this will bring me to the negatives. So I think in the negatives is just, sometimes I feel like the entire story was like a smashed piece of like vase that was kind of pushed back together, glued back together, but barely holding on, because it seemed like in some parts it didn't always make sense. Like they had some ideas of how they wanted the story to go, but it didn't always seem to, like, when you think about it, oh, does that really make sense? So like when I think about this is like, it's very clear that Bo and Tag have lived there a long time, and Bo has a relationship with the head police officer in this town. But it seems as though that this cartel that's pretty local, like, my thought is how come, if he's lived there a long time and he's friends with the police, how come people don't know about this cartel already? Like, aren't they well known? It just seemed like, did they just show up out of the blue one day? because it turns out that they didn't just show up. They've been there a while because they've seemed to infect the police force. It seems like there's leaks, there's people within the police force who are part of this cartel. And I thought, in a small town like this, you kind of would know that stuff. And the other thing I would say in the negatives is sometimes it seemed like, for as smart as Bo and Tag were about this whole situation, I felt like it was also they were being very stupid. Because Bo cared about his daughter. And that definitely seemed to be what his number one priority was. But by taking in this strange woman, and he always said, we don't trust her. Like, she's handcuffed to the bed in the beginning. And I thought, for someone who loves his daughter, is extremely overprotective, he sure didn't seem to mind putting his whole family in jeopardy by allowing this woman with this mysterious wound that she doesn't want to bring to the police or the hospital to stay in their house, knowing full well that's going to attract the attention of people who are looking for her. And I just thought, slippery and thin.
Please don't.
I guess if we didn't have some characters making some dumb choices or doing unrealistic things, we wouldn't have a story. So at the end of the day, you can put a little suspension of disbelief because I did overall like the characters. So let's just do a spoiler section and I can get into the review. So spoilers, this is on demand. It has been out for a while. If you're interested in seeing it, I recommend seeing it and then coming back to the spoiler section. So Bo and Tag are pretty much living in their little country house, and Tag comes along, January, who's been shot and wounded and almost dead, brings her in, and they start taking care of her, and Bo is constantly going to the store to get stuff to either take care of her, but he also buys this lawnmower, and I thought, is the lawnmower just a thing, or is it going to play into the movie? Well, yes, it does play into the movie, because he buys the lawnmower for $20 because the guy at the pawn store says, oh, it doesn't really work, it needs this and this, blah blah blah, and they bargain over it. It was kind of comical there, but he gets the lawnmower, brings the lawnmower home, but then he keeps doing things out of character. Now, one thing I liked about Tag was she was smart. She was really smart. Like, she was on to her dad when, like, he was trying to protect her or keep her out of the loop about certain things, but she was sharp. And she'd always question, like, oh, Dad, you don't go back to the store so much. Why are you going to keep going? You're leaving me here with this woman that we don't know.
How old are sea turtles?
Sea turtles? I don't know.
Cindy Plankton from next door, he said that sea turtles said that they live to be about 100 years old.
Well, you know what? If I ever meet a sea turtle, I'll ask him. After I'm done talking to the shark, okay?
Meanwhile, these criminals that have... So the criminals... All right, so the movie had opened up with this young, pretty girl being a waitress in a bar, and she gets confronted by this criminal who's looking for a guy named Jensen. And then there's this whole scene about... He's just basically really threatening her in the bar. And then the only thing that happens there is this side character notices it, and he threatens the guy in the parking lot, and he ends up dead. Then we flash to Bo and Tag. Come to find out that girl, that waitress in the movie, is January's roommate. But none of this happens, but through flashbacks later, as we learn that January and they had home invaded in their house to get to Jensen, and they ended up killing the waitress, and they thought they killed January because they shot her and she fell off a bridge, and she ended up hiding from them before they could find her. So they just assumed she's dead. But these aren't, hokey country bumpkin criminals. They are more like blow mobsters, smarter, high-end mobster type criminals. And they're not going to leave loose ends out there for long, especially since they have connections in the police department.
Who introduced you to Pablo Escobar? Huh? Me. Who introduced you to your fucking Colombian wife? Me. Who protects you? When my friend Cesar Rosa wanted to slice your fucking throat out. Huh? Me. Who made you make millions and millions of dollars? Me. And what do I get in return? Is for like care because you're out there. Déjalo.
Now, as days go by, Tag starts forming a relationship with January, and she likes the idea of January being there because it seems that January is filling in the missing hole in their equation, which is their mom who's been gone. But it turns out that Bo has been hiding a big secret from Tag about her mom. It turns out that she wasn't dead, but that she was in prison for something she did when she was younger. And he kept it from her all these years because he didn't want her to be upset and hurting. Which to me was a little weak part of the story because I thought, didn't this mom who was alive want her daughter who was alive to be visiting her in jail all these years? But they never really get into that until the way end, which we'll get to that at the end, what happens with the mom in jail. But these criminals start getting involved. They start sniffing around the property. They start home invading their house as well. It goes to blows. Then we start having that whole die-hard sense of Bo's going to take out everyone one by one. And he goes to, once I feel, all right, so he finally ends up making a smart decision by saying, all right, this is getting too much. Let me get January in with the one police officer that I know I can trust. Well, he turns January over to the one police officer. They're going to take her somewhere out of town to try and get her to safe. But apparently the cops, the dirty cops that are involved were too quick, and they end up killing the one police officer that was Bo's friend, and they kidnap January. This was a part where I had this thought in my head. It was a really bizarre thought. Reminded me of a scene from Jurassic Park 3, and you think, what scene from Jurassic Park 3 could be in this little old movie? But if you remember in Jurassic Park 3, and I've mentioned this on my channel before, when the one character steals the eggs from the velociraptors, and Dr. Alan Grant finds out later that his friend, I forget his name, but the younger friend that idolizes him, has the egg, and he gets upset with him, and he's like, we've got to get the egg back to them. And he's like, well, why don't we just leave it? And he says, no, we're not going to leave the egg because... And the young guy says, well, what if the velociraptors find us with the egg? And Dr. Grant says, well, what if the velociraptors find us without the egg and they know that we had it? That's worse. And that thought flashed across my mind after they turned January in, because I thought the criminals knew that January was at the house. And if they came back again and January wasn't there, they literally would be, well, what if the criminals found Bo and Tag without January? They're done for. So Bo knows that these criminals are pretty slick, and he's got to take care of it Bruce Willis style. So he's going to go to their warehouse where they're all at, and he's going to start taking them down one by one. And he thought he left Tag behind, but Tag tagged along. And it's a good thing she did, because of course in the climax scene, it seems like Bo started to lose his footing and gets it, was about to get it by the main criminal, but in comes Tag from the back to rescue her dad, shoot the head criminal, and save the day. They rescue January, and they also are able to meet up with her mom who's out of prison, because there was this whole thing, and this was a part that kind of reminded me of Signs, because Mel Gibson, Bo, writes this letter to Tag, and it is a really deep, heartfelt letter, and I thought, wow, this is pretty deep stuff for, you know, just a little country bumpkin, you know, home invasion thriller. But it was really nice, and they end up, you know, Mel Gibson really shows his acting chops when this all goes down, and it ends with Tag meeting her mom, and Mel's watching from the car, or Bo's watching from the car. The end.
Dad, I know what to do.
Nemo, no!
We have to tell all the fish to swim down together.
Get out of there
I
now!
know this will work.
No, I am not gonna lose you again!
Dad, there's no time. It's the only way we can save Dory. I can do this.
You're right. I know you can.
So let's get down to business on hunting season, because overall this movie was kind of right up my alley. It had all the right things in the right places for me. However, it did have some basic feeling as well, and some lack in story parts, or parts where maybe they could have filled in the gaps a little bit better. So I'm going to blend all my emotions on this one, and we're going to give hunting season a basic burger. Well, that's it. Please like, subscribe, tap that notification bell. And don't forget to stay scared of those home invasion gangster criminals that'll come after you and your family if you get in the way of their nasty plots.